Hey everyone, Clay here. I'm sure you're wondering to yourself, hey, where is Bram Stoker's Dracula? This episode was supposed to be Bram Stoker's Dracula, and you would be correct. It was supposed to be Bram Stoker's Dracula, and Amanda and I recorded a slick, adventurous, exciting, almost 2-hour episode talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I then taped over, if you can believe it. When we recorded this episode, Creature from the Black Lagoon, I hadn't saved my files correctly, and it's just gone. It's completely gone, and it's a bummer because I was really excited to talk about that. Amanda was really excited to talk about that movie, and we're going to take the L on this one and move on to Creature from the Black Lagoon. We will eventually do Bram Stoker's Dracula again. We'll circle back around to it, but I think it's going to be a bit before we do because we got into it quite a bit, and I think it would be difficult to replicate that energy right away. So enjoy Creature from the Black Lagoon. Thanks for listening, and keep your ears open for when we eventually come back to Bram Stoker's Dracula. All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Rotten Horror Picture Show.
Hello. We're coming to you in 3D audio
The third dimension.
of audio on the Rotten Horror Picture Show, the horror movie podcast where we talk about films off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list. My name is Clay, and with me as always is Amanda. How you doing, Amanda?
I am quite well. How are you?
I'm good. I've got my scuba tank ready.
You got your spray gun and your
my-
harpoon gun.
Yep. I haven't worn a shirt in weeks,
Good. Yeah.
and I'm excited because you must be excited because as a woman,
Yes.
you can't sweat
No.
or look disheveled in any way.
I mean, the listeners just have to trust that I am perfectly coiffed at all times.
Yes. We are talking about today number 154 on our list, which is The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Dun dun dun.
We had the pleasure of watching this in 3D
It was great.
because I am one of the probably very few people left who have a 3D television.
I mean, so this is the second time I've gotten to enjoy your 3D television, and I gotta say, it's making me really question what the rest of us were thinking not getting one.
It's kind of cool.
It actually works really well.
Yeah.
I keep being surprised.
Yeah.
I keep expecting it to be crappier than it is, but it's really good.
I think it will probably vary movie to movie. Like I only have a few 3D Blu-rays.
Friday the 13th part.
Friday the 13th Part 3,
3.
which they did not take the most care or craft in that one.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
shocked. You don't say about a Friday the 13th movie.
Well, if you'd like to hear what we're talking about, you can listen to that coverage on Patreon at patreon.com/the File.
Good plug.
Yeah, the only other one I've got Creature from Black Lagoon, Friday the 13th, Part 3, House of Wax,
Ooh.
which I bought specifically because I knew we were going to do that one eventually,
Yeah.
and Prometheus.
What?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. I haven't watched Prometheus in 3D, but being a new movie,
I'm really shocked. That's not where I was expecting that
oh,
to go.
I mean, I love Prometheus.
Yeah.
So I got that as I think I got it as it was the only version that was available or something. It was like the big version.
Oh,
so it
okay.
has all of the versions.
Oh my God.
So it's like Blu-ray, 3D, and I think it might also have a DVD in it.
You heard it here first, folks. Clay's favorite movie is Prometheus.
No, but I will go to bat for that movie if I have to. But yeah, there's a certain level of gimmickry obviously built into it.
Yes.
But if you shoot specifically for 3D and like actually take some time to put some craft into it, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. Had you seen this? You hadn't seen this before, right?
I realize that I've definitely seen lots of clips from it.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, like bits and pieces here and there, probably about enough to put together the whole story.
Yes.
Because there's not a ton of plot beats that you need to cover in this movie.
No, not so much.
But yeah, I think this was my first time sitting down and watching the whole thing all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd seen this once before. I actually, I got this a couple years ago. There was a sale on the Universal Monsters Blu-ray sets.
Nice.
There's a big full box, right? This is going to be my slight rant on box sets here.
Settle in, everyone.
I was looking at this box set of everything. It was the big, it was like the Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Invisible Man,
Oh, wow.
Creature in the Black Lagoon, all of their sequels, all of their
Jeez.
crossover movies, all of their Abbott and Costello movies,
Holy shit.
and also what the more updated version of Phantom of the Opera.
Oh,
Not
my
the Lon
God.
Chaney one, the one from like the 40s or 50s.
Still,
and-
that's a lot of movies.
Yeah, and I wanted to get this.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't remember, it was like almost $200 or something. And so I was really kind of hemming and hawing, dancing. I've probably talked about this before. And I had come across that just as I happened to be looking at these, there was a sale on the individual Blu-ray sets. And I don't care for the Mummy.
Sure.
So I had no intention of buying that. So I just bought all the other ones, and it ended up being much cheaper.
Oh.
And I also am happy I did that because there is a lot of crossover. So like the movies that feature both Dracula and Frankenstein, both sets have those movies in it. So I have like 3 copies of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Holy
because
shit.
No, I might have 4 copies of that.
Oh my God.
Because Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, and the Invisible Man are in that movie.
One for every room of the house.
So that movie is in each one of those sets.
Perfect.
And so this big set is just the individual sets put together. So if you bought the big set, you would get all of these overlap movies.
Oh.
Yeah. So you would get a set that is 4 copies of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh. Yeah, I would be kind of mad if I'd paid a lot of money for that and then realized that like a quarter of what I got was Abbott and Costello.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a long way of me coming around to say I hadn't seen this before I bought it because this set only has 3 movies on it.
Yeah.
And so it was considerably cheaper. And I was like, yeah, what the hell? I'm going for completion's sake. I've never seen Creature from the Black Lagoon. It comes in 3D. What the hell?
Fun.
Yeah. So the first time I watched it was after I bought it. And I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. But we can get into that a bit more in a minute. We're going to play the quick trailer for you. Hopefully it's I haven't heard the trailer. Hopefully it's not just music and text.
Sloshing sounds.
Yeah. But we'll be right back to talk about Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Science couldn't explain it, but there it was, alive in the deep, deep waters of the Amazon. A throwback to a creature that had existed 100 million years ago, immensely strong and destructive. A woman's beauty, the bait that brought it out of its lair. See underwater thrills never photographed before. See titanic underwater battles never dreamed of before in this most terrifying of the science fiction adventures.
Okay, Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954, directed by Jack Arnold, written by Harry Essex and Arthur Ross, story by Morris Zim, starring Richard Carlson, Julie Adams, Richard Denning, Rico Browning as the Gillman in water, Ben Chapman as the Gillman on land, and a boat named Rita.
Nice.
Amanda, what happens in The Creature from the Black Lagoon?
A strange prehistoric beast lurks in the depths of the Amazonian jungle. A group of scientists try to capture the animal and bring it back to civilization for study.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Can't say no to that.
No. It's funny. I always expect some of these older movies that have more, what's the word? Legendary status.
Yeah.
To have that built into the synopsis, but they generally don't. It's just kind of like a plain.
Just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
But Clay, I will tell you about some things you can find in this movie.
Please do.
And what they include. Horny monsters again.
Again, 2 weeks in a row.
Again.
Horny monsters.
A lot of horny monsters in this podcast recently.
Yes. Have you ever seen Humanoids from the Deep?
No. What is that?
Humanoids from the Deep is kind of a
horny monster movie?
Yes.
Oh no.
It is like it's a Roger Corman pseudo update of Creature from the Black Lagoon from like I think the late 70s.
Is this like Alan Moore's Neonomicon thing?
Very similar. There is
Nope.
There's a lot of boobs.
Nope.
And there's a lot of fish on lady attacks and it's kind of great. Not that element of it, but because one of the things as I was watching
I wish people listening to this could have seen your face as you were saying that, because I could see it in your face that you were already cringing at yourself for saying it out loud.
It's just one of those things where like as I was watching this one in particular, I was like, this is so.
This movie could do with more of the Shape of Water style.
Hey, listen, last week I was talking about I want a hornier Dracula. This week I want a hornier creature, Gillman.
Yeah.
But like I was watching this going like, this is so just like sanded down as because you've got this monster.
He just wants to touch her ankle.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And it's kind of cute to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But all I could think of was Humanoids from the Deep, where I was like, yeah, in real life, this monster, like the murders would be so much more vicious and his intentions would be less chivalrous. Let's put it that way. Anyway,
some other things you'll find include going into unexplored territory with a woman.
Never been done.
My God, man. You'll also find the Devonian age.
Yeah, they mentioned the Devonian age like 4 or 5 times. Very with a lot of like grandeur behind it.
Right, like the way that I think like somebody who was a kid in the 90s would talk about the Jurassic age.
Right.
Yes.
In the Devonian age, for those interested, was about 419.2 million and 358.9 million. Oh, I guess that's what it spans.
In that range, yeah.
The Devonian period in geological time, an interval of the Paleozoic era that follows the Silurian period. That's what I thought. It followed the Silurian period.
Wow.
And precedes the Carboniferous period.
Sure.
Spanning between about
that was when Han Solo was encased in carbonite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a very long time for all of us.
Yes. And you'll also find in this movie.
Yes.
Marks.
Thank you for cutting off me going on a deep dive.
We don't need it. That's not what we're about here. We're about fishman murders and nothing else.
Yeah.
You'll find Mark's positive weapon.
It's a very positive weapon.
It's an extremely positive weapon, and it's not compensating for anything, so don't ask.
No, definitely not. That's the other thing that's interesting about this movie.
Weapons?
Well, weapons, but like there is so much interesting subtext you could lay onto this movie if you wanted to.
Yes, there is.
Just a bunch of sweaty guys wrestling,
colonizing another country.
Yep. Yeah. So, Creature from the Black Lagoon. What's your feeling generally on the ocean and sea monsters?
The ocean and sea monsters.
Or I guess this isn't technically the ocean.
Aquatic things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jaws is one of my all-time favorite movies, if that tells you anything. I'm sort of somewhere in between fascinated and also just like, if it lives in the water, I'll probably eat it.
Interesting.
Do you know what I
Okay,
mean?
Sure.
I'm like a very heartless appreciator of the ocean.
Yeah.
No, but I do find it fascinating, and not to jump too far ahead, but like at least twice in this movie, there are a couple different comparisons to for deep water exploration, comparing it to space exploration.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's actually a really apt comparison and a really fascinating one that like to this very day, there is plenty that lives in our oceans that we don't know about, or we know about it, but we don't fully understand it.
Right.
And I think that's really amazing and also really horrifying.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a realm that's very rife with opportunities for good scary movies.
Yes. I am terrified of sea monsters.
Really?
Yes. Obviously, I understand that the concept is largely false.
So you're not a big fan of like Champ, the Lake Champlain monster?
I'm a fan of it in that I hope it exists.
And you never want to meet it.
Right. But like the Loch Ness for when I was younger, the Loch Ness monster was like the scariest thing I could think of.
Really?
Yes. And I think a lot of it comes from that inherent separate, like if you go to space, right?
Yes.
You're all
Which
of
I
your
do regularly.
Yeah, regularly weekends.
Me and Elon.
All of your body is in space.
Sure.
It's not like your head is sticking out of space and you can't see the rest of space from the neck down.
Got it. Okay.
And that goes a long way in the creepiness for me, for the fact that it is completely unknown. Even if
Sure.
you're in a freshwater lake, you don't know what's swimming around in there.
Oh, I definitely convinced one of my friends as a child that there were lake sharks.
Sure.
And I don't blame her. I don't blame her for believing me, the horrible liar that I was.
Yeah.
Because why would she know?
I've been in lakes in New Hampshire and I've seen big snakes.
Yep.
Just swim right by me. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
See, I like snakes. That sounds fine to me.
No, not a fan. But it's just like there is that level of unknown and you can't see it and you don't really know what's down there. And also, unlike space, we know that there are things down there.
Yes, and we know that we don't know that there are we know that there are things we don't know about what's down there.
Right.
Whereas like space, we generally assume the vast majority of it to be empty.
Yeah, and it's like, man, isn't the concept of aliens so scary? And it's like, well, the concept of a giant fish that could eat me is scarier to me because like there's been no evidence of the former in this situation.
Right. Whereas the latter definitely exists.
Especially so years ago.
Yes.
Right, when I was a kid. I loved watching like sightings or sightings was kind of like, I think it was probably a little bit too old for you.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It was a show on Fox around the same, I think it kind of popped up around the same time as the X-Files, when the X-Files first started. And it was one of those like in search of type shows where they're presenting paranormal stuff kind of as fact.
Oh, didn't oh God, you're gonna kill me on like 7 levels when I say this. Who played number 1?
Jonathan Frakes?
Yes. Didn't he host a show kind of like that?
He hosted Fact or Fiction.
Okay.
Where he would present 3 stories.
Okay.
And one of them was true, I think.
Yeah, but some of them were like,
similar idea.
Somebody from beyond the grave was warning you. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
And so like on these kind of shows, every now and then you get like a sea monster episode.
Sure.
And they would be talking about like, the giant squid, and they think they've gotten pictures of the giant squid, which up to this point no one thought existed. It's just a story. It's a fairy tale sea monster.
Yep.
And then they found out the giant squid was real.
Yes.
Like legitimately real.
Yes, those very much exist.
And that just reaffirmed all of my fears of the ocean.
And how like smart octopi are.
Right.
Like they're really fucking smart.
Right. This is tangent, but
sure. As if we're not on one already.
One of the I came over to my girlfriend's place down the street from here back when they lived over.
I was gonna say she has her own place down the street from here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's just weekends.
Yeah.
Like you in space.
Yeah.
And one of her roommates was watching like
one of those Planet Earth documentaries or something, yeah.
And it was about cuttlefish. And it was this hilarious story of these cuttlefish where they were talking about how smart they are. and how they were showing this video of how a cuttlefish outsmarted a bigger, tougher cuttlefish and to sleep with this cuttlefish's fish wife. And so there's this big cuttlefish, and he's got his like hot octopi girlfriend. And
Oh
this
my god, I just
smaller,
made your dog mad. I laughed so long.
this smaller,
did.
weaker cuttlefish shows up, and they're
And
like,
he's-
the larger alpha cuttlefish doesn't let the smaller beta cuttlefish anywhere near his girlfriend. But the smaller one pretended to be a girl and snuck up
Oh,
on the
like just
alpha.
some girl talk time.
Yeah. And then just snuck around him very quickly, made time with this girlfriend, and just was off. So very smart
And you
animals.
have been using that as your ethos for life, your personal philosophy ever since.
Yeah, I don't go in the water.
Because God only knows what those cuttlefish are getting up to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I find ocean monster stories very scary. Like, did you see Underwater?
No.
So Underwater was very cool. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about Black Lagoon in a minute.
Yeah.
But that kind of hit the right it hit the right note for me because the thing that always gets me about sea monsters and underwater stuff is the sense of scale being so unknowable, and the sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Like spatial distortion.
Yes.
So very large things can be very close, but you can't see them, and that's what gets me about that kind of stuff.
I think there's also like the natural like lack of ability, or like we as humans are not designed to operate in the water.
Right.
You know, like we have extra equipment that makes us better at it, but fundamentally it's a foreign environment. And so we're not good at survival if it's just like you have been tossed like overboard off of a ship.
Right.
And
yes.
now you need to try to survive. It's like,
Yes.
what are you going to do? Like,
Ever since the Devonian age,
yes.
when we exited the water and started our slow evolution.
Yes,
but that's
there
like,
it is. There's the transition.
I also don't like not being able my feet to touch the ground. So like,
right, because anything could be beneath you.
yeah, I'm very bottom heavy. So like, if I stop swimming, I'm just gonna sink like a rock.
You got those quads and those calves that everybody's
Yep,
jealous
just
of.
Very dense muscle, which will do me in if I ever fall off a boat.
It's very stable though.
Anyway, so this movie, it starts off. I think one of the more interesting things about this is a movie where so many people, especially filmmakers and stuff, will call back to this movie as being an influence, and it's one of the last, if not the last, big name Universal monster.
Because you said this came out in 1954. 54.
Which the original boom had been over. It's actually pretty interesting. So you had Dracula and Frankenstein in 1931. And the sequels to those, I think Bride of Frankenstein might have been relatively contemporary.
Okay.
But most of the other sequels and the other movies didn't come until like the 40s. Because, man, I listened to a great podcast about this. I've already forgotten all the really cool information. However, the one thing that I'm going to completely screw up, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway.
Let's go for it.
Basically, the way that they got rid of monster movies was in England. So there was a big the English market was a big market for distributing American films.
Sure.
And the person who was in charge of the censor board in America didn't like monster movies because he thought they were too dark and blah blah blah. Right.
Sure.
And so in England, there was like a censorship thing applied to these movies, which didn't outright ban them. However, the guy in America relayed this decision as that England was not going to accept monster movies. And so, since this was back before instant communications,
right, you couldn't just like Google it.
yeah, the only person who was going to know this was this guy in America.
Right.
And so he basically said, yeah, the English aren't going to take horror movies anymore. And so then all of the studios stopped making horror movies.
Wow.
And he basically single-handedly killed them for about 10 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so you don't get...
What a dick.
I know. You don't get them coming back until they start running them as double features.
Yeah, I was going to say kind of like a post-World War II thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe not quite fully post-World War II.
I don't know if it's totally... I feel like some of it might have been before that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Fair enough.
But you've got double features. You got kids seeing these movies and kids getting really into them. And so then they start doing, we'll do another Frankenstein movie.
Yeah.
Let's bring in these new monsters. And then, so that was a chunk that happened in the 40s. And then after that, they kind of died out again.
Yeah.
And everything moved into science fiction.
I was going to say, because then we're in like the nuclear age and there's all this, stuff about nuclear power and space exploration and all of that.
Yep.
Which is part of why I think it comes up in this movie, is that it was much more in the public imagination at the time.
Yeah, and you've got stuff like This Island Earth, which has a famous monster design, but the monster's in it for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's the big like brain monster.
Yes.
His face looks kind of like a bug.
Yep.
It's kind of a cool design, but it's kind of inconsequential in the movie. But this is a really interesting movie because it's a atomic era monster movie.
Yes.
That isn't an atomic age movie.
Right.
Like, this feels like it would be of a piece with like Godzilla, but it's not, because the monster you would think in this time period would be, it's a radioactive thing.
Right.
But
Some
it's
company was coming to the Amazon to dump their waste in this lagoon, and we got the Gillman.
Right.
And it's like, no, he's just been here since the Devonian age.
Yeah, and it's actually closer to like Jurassic Park, and it opens very similarly to Jurassic Park as well.
It does, yeah.
But yeah, I find that very interesting how it is kind of working on the same sort of archetypes of the time, but it is not an atomic monster movie.
Yeah, this movie does a lot of like playing around with what you would think of as like kind of the tropes and cliches of that time period. Like, I'm pretty shocked at how there's little bits of like sexism in this movie, like period based sexism, but there's not a lot.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Yeah,
like Kay is herself a scientist,
right?
Like she is. Nobody questions her education. They tease her at one point about because like we said, things you'll find in this movie include going into unexplored territory with a woman.
Yes,
but they sort of say it in a way to tease her, and then they don't put up an argument about her coming.
Right.
Like nobody's bothered that she's there. There's a couple times where they're like, "It's too dangerous. You shouldn't do this," but they're never like. I don't know. There's not the same veneer of like sexism over everything that you would expect in a movie that came out in 1954.
Yeah.
And I'm also kind of surprised at how not racist this movie was.
Yeah, that's pretty fair, actually.
Do you know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not saying these are the most sensitive and nuanced portrayals of men from South America, but they're not cliched in the way you would expect them to be.
Right.
Like nobody's getting drunk on the job and like shirking their responsibilities. None of them turn traitor and try to like rob the white people.
I'm shocked that they don't run into a tribe.
Yes,
who is like,
they don't.
The creature, we pray to him.
Oh, yes, we worship it. It is the great Gillman.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and there's no talk of
Huxaqua, the great monster from the deep.
Look at
God.
them in their primitive ways. Like, yeah, you don't get any of that.
Never even seen a television.
Yeah, they don't even have radio here. Yeah, you don't get any of that. And like the boat captain, Lucas, is like treated like a very important character and has like he's kind of like a bit of comedic relief at times, but he's not treated like he's an idiot, and he's actually treated like he's maybe smarter than a bunch of the people on the expedition. He's
smart enough to make sure that he's the only character whose name I know because he keeps saying his name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even for me, Lucas.
Yes.
But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that this movie from the 50s manages to avoid a lot of easily very bad things that it could have done to take you out of the story.
Yeah, it's, I mean, Kay is still more or less a damsel in distress type character.
Yeah, she spends the last half of the movie turning and screaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, she does spend a lot of time just standing on the boat. But at
the beginning, like there's this scene where they're examining the arm that what's his face? Carl. I think it's Carl. Carl has found and brought to try to convince them to do an expedition. And she, like, they're all observing it, and she points out, like, oh, but look, look at the phalanges. They have this kind of structure, which implies that they're somehow related to, like, she's given lines that show, like, oh yeah, she's really smart. Like, she's here on her own merits. And there's a whole conversation between her and one of the other members of the expedition that Mark, who's sort of their backer, their funding, has made his reputation partially off of the quality of her work.
Right.
Which is really surprising for a movie in the 50s to be like, hey, this lady scientist is really smart.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they kind of bury that note under a little bit of like, there's...
Like, but also, why aren't you married yet?
Yeah, well, there's that. But like, there's this weird sort of half-assed love triangle going on.
Yes.
Where...
She and David are together.
They've been together for a long time. To the point...
extremely long time.
To the point where Carl... The guy who's dressed like Colonel Sanders.
I was gonna say who's dressed like fucking what's his name from Jurassic Park?
Yes, John Hammond. Yes.
Thank you.
So the John
Jack
Hammond,
and I was like, that's not right.
Well, his friends call him Jack.
Yeah.
Till John Hammond shows up, and he's like, they've been together long enough that he doesn't know why they're married yet. They've been together for 6 months. We find out. Yes,
6 entire months and no ring.
And they are acting as though they have been together for years.
And look, she's out of school at this point. She's a working scientist.
Yes.
That must mean she's over 20, which means she's a hag.
By Dracula logic, yes.
By Bram Stoker's Dracula logic.
She's basically a spinster at this point.
Yes. No one will want her now, Clay.
Well, we know one slimy person who does.
Yeah, one Gillman who's quite enthusiastic about her.
Yeah, he's just the Gillman is the emo kid in the story who's like, your boyfriend doesn't appreciate you.
Yeah, not like I do.
No. That's what he looks like.
And then part your lips and breathe out through your mouth.
That's what he looks like. He sounds like. He looks like he would have kind of a derpy voice.
I definitely got to the point in this movie where every time they just showed the Gillman's still face, I couldn't stop laughing.
But yeah, they imply that Mark kind of has the hots for her.
Yes.
And she's kind of like rebuffed him in the past.
Yes.
But they don't really go into it.
Yeah. Which I actually think is kind of fine.
Yeah. Well,
I don't really
again,
need them to go into it.
The person in the middle of this triangle seems more to be David, because Mark and David definitely have a lot more contact.
They That's such a diplomatic way of putting it.
Yes.
Yeah, those men are nearly naked together.
Not diplomatic in my language choices on this show.
Yeah, those men are almost naked together all the time.
Yeah, and Mark is he's really into, being right there with David and competing with David, but it never get the sense that they're competing for her.
Yeah, more like the competition is about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do have they do serve the purpose of the main core purpose of the story, which I do find really interesting, which is Mark is the classic, we need to find it and we got to kill it. I don't care what it is.
Yep.
And David is the one who's like, hey, it's just an animal. Maybe we don't kill it.
Right.
We just leave it alone.
Right. Maybe there is value for to this creature just existing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, they each take their ideals to the nth degree, where Mark never gets to the point where he's like, maybe you're right, maybe we should just get out of here. And David, even after this thing has killed multiple people, including Mark. And he's like, even after,
but it's still just an animal and it doesn't deserve our hatred.
Right. He's killed Mark. He's kidnapped Kay.
Yes.
And even at the end, after they've shot him 6 times, he's like, you know what?
Let it go.
Just let him go.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because he does have this sort of, being that pure about his intentions to let the ecosystem exist as it is.
He's the Jonathan Harker of the story.
Right. He's
I'm gonna love you from afar, but we're never gonna touch.
well, it's not that the Gillman is like the bad guy so much. David just wants to get everybody home.
Yes.
Like he doesn't want to kill this thing. He doesn't want to. He just wants to get out of there and stop more people from getting killed.
Right.
And they keep the Gillman he's being kind of a dick about it, but
no, a little bit. But hey, look, they did come to his house.
It's true. It does go both ways.
Started
they did
poisoning his fucking lagoon.
They roofied him.
Yeah, like 3 times.
Multiples, which is really bad for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find the underlying again for the 50s, I find his character and his underlying motivations interesting because I feel like it would be much more in line for him to have the moment where he's like, you're right, we have to kill this thing, this monster. But the Gillman
in the 50s especially.
Yeah. But the Gillman is always kind of presented as fairly sympathetic. Like he's interesting because he is, where you've got Frankenstein, who is fully sympathetic because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a creation. He didn't ask to be born. He's only a monster because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
The Gillman is both sympathetic because he's just a half human, half fish, wild animal.
Right. He's a wild animal.
But he is also still a monster who is killing people.
Yes.
So he's got this weird kind of dual...
Yeah, because he keeps coming back to the boat.
Right.
Like the Gillman he boards the boat several times. He reaches in through portholes. He menaces people. He kills a bunch of people.
He tries to grab that one guy's dick.
He grabs a lot of faces.
Yeah, he does, yes.
He blocks their exit.
Yep.
So there is, like... He might just be a wild animal that's running on instinct that sees Kay as like a potential mate or partner, but he's still doing a lot of stuff that's like, all right, that's bad.
Right.
Like that's malicious. That's not just like, it's not that the humans keep coming after him. He does take some initiative in arranging these confrontations.
And it makes sense in this movie the way that it doesn't in movies where the creature is literally just an animal, because sometimes you'll run into these movies where it's like, oh my god, they've locked us in. It's like, it's a lion. It didn't back you into the corner and then close the door behind you.
Unless this is
smart.
the movie The Ghost in the Darkness.
That's true.
In which case that lion absolutely did back you into the corner and close the door.
But that's what I mean though. Like it's he actually has he's a sentient being who can make decisions and like scheme because he's half human.
Yes. Yeah. There's intent.
Yes. Intent. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes.
Speaking of Gillman, what do you think of the costume?
I think it looks a lot better underwater than it does above water.
Yeah, it's
when you see him in the scenes where, especially in the scenes where Kay is swimming, and the Gillman is sort of weaving in and out through the plant life on the bottom and kind of coming up and then diving back down and shadowing her. And you don't get the camera fully focused on him. It's sort of focused on the whole scene of her swimming near the surface and him swimming beneath. It can look really good.
Yeah.
It can look really, really good. And a lot of that's probably a testament to how good the professional divers who played the Gillman are.
And that guy didn't have tanks on. He was just holding his breath. He had to hold his breath for like an insane amount of time.
That's crazy. It's really impressive and it looks really good in those moments. It looks less good towards the end.
When he's just wandering around like someone who just got home from work.
Yeah, and he's got the sort of dopey fish face. The sort of bulging eyes and the like just gaping open mouth.
Yeah.
That just sort of open and closes like mechanically. That's when it can start to look a little silly.
Yeah, I think the underwater stuff in general is really great. Like, and I think it is, as we were talking about a little bit before, the 3D really shines in the underwater scenes.
Yeah.
Because it really creates this sense of depth.
Yeah.
In a way that is not gimmicky.
Yeah.
Like, they have some of that stuff too. There's this great opening shot at the beginning when they find the fossilized hand.
Yes.
Where they do like a camera pan and brings the hand into focus and it looks like it's reaching out. That looks, it's great.
It looks amazing.
But the underwater stuff is really, it's really utilizing the 3D in a way that is adding to the atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, I kept trying to think of a word for it that wasn't like, I hesitate to use the word subtle.
Sure.
Because it's not exactly subtle, but there's something more to it than just the gimmick that you usually get with 3D. Yeah. It's adding like a texture that's not there.
There's it's more considered.
Yeah.
There's more craft built into it. Like, it's not just, oh shit, we got to do some 3D gags. It's like they're using it as a filmmaking tool. Yeah,
and it adds something substantial to your experience of the movie because I think it gives you more of a sense of the environment around people as they're diving, and there are a lot of diving sequences in this movie.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful to have that increased sense of scale.
Yeah. I think ultimately this movie is, even though it's not a gimmicky 3D movie, I would say that this movie is more of, like, overall is more of a we're just going to show off for a bit type movie.
Yeah.
Because of the diving sequences, which are really great.
Yeah.
And also because of the suit. Because the suit is great. I think the suit is great. It's a great design. It's an iconic design.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it looks better in underwater.
Yeah.
But when he's walking around outside, I mean, it's all outside, but above water.
Yeah, above water, yes.
I found myself thinking, I was like, there's really not a lot of, like, cinematic craft about how they're showing this guy. And it felt to me like they were just, like, going, look at this awesome creature. Like, it's such a cool, like, the suit is full body.
I think I just couldn't get past the face.
His face is pretty derpy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you're right. Like, even the hands, I love the hands.
Yeah, the hands are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he's just kind of like walking around and shuffling around. You get like these full body shots of him.
Yeah.
And they're not really like scary. And it felt almost like they were just trying to get their most out of this suit and just really show it off.
Yeah.
And the movie is 79 minutes.
Right.
You know, it's barely over an hour.
Right.
And the plot is, you know, as we said, pretty thin. It's they go to find the creature.
Right, yes.
And they find the creature.
And then
fight
they
the
try
creature.
to escape the creature, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of it is kind of just a spectacle type thing.
Right, where they're sort of letting you do that thing of just like sitting in the atmosphere with them, which I really like. Like I like that a lot about this movie. Like I could imagine throwing this on in the background when you're in the right mood.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that scene where I didn't think it was going to be as effective as it was, but the scene where the monster is swimming underneath Kay is great.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it from underwater, so you can see that he's right there. It's all the things I fear about the water.
Yeah.
Right there.
I was going to say that it is kind of like your perfect storm of like nightmarish assumptions about swimming.
Yeah.
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 Where it's like you're just having a nice time enjoying the sunshine and the warm water, and 6 or so feet beneath you is this thing stalking you that you can't see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's kind of beautiful the way that it's very elegant.
Yeah. I mean, she's gorgeous and her swimming is very elegant and lovely. The music they use is almost like, there's the jarring moments where the Gillman interrupts, but the music they use in general is sort of dreamy in a way.
Yeah.
It does give this very specific atmosphere of like the juxtaposition of like her being so lovely and the Gillman being so grotesque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's almost treating her. He's kind of treating her the way they're treating him to a certain extent, where he's like, this is something new that he's like, ooh, I like this. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, yeah. He very much spots her and is just like, oh my God, a beautiful fish.
Yeah.
Like a beautiful fish I've never seen before. Maybe she'll like me? I don't know.
Yeah, this is kind of essentially a condensed version of King Kong to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's the same kind of thing where she even kind of like looks like Fay Wray a bit, but not blonde. But
yeah. No, but she definitely has the look of the time.
Yes.
Yes. In terms of her costuming and her hair.
Yes.
And all that. Yeah.
I feel like as the movie went on, her boobs got pointier.
Really? I felt like they were extremely pointy in the beginning.
Maybe
and then got kind of actually less so.
I think
later on.
they were just like
more noticeable.
They were condensing the amount of clothes she was
Cameras
wearing.
just slowly zooming in.
Yeah. So like by the end, her shirt is like tied up underneath her.
That's true. She's
her
essentially
chest.
wearing
short
like
shorts on.
yeah, she's wearing like Daisy Dukes and a handkerchief.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the monster.
Yes.
I think it holds up pretty well.
Yeah, no, it really does. Like, there's something weirdly fascinating about it. Like watching it move around underwater. And again, I can't say enough about like how impressive I find it that the divers who acted as the Gillman, like how impressive they were.
I think that's the thing that is so surprising about it is how well the suit moves underwater.
Yes.
Because this is 1954.
Yeah, that was
They're not using space age material here. This is like plastic and rubber.
I was so surprised when you said what year this was, because I was thinking like 58, 59, you know, like late enough that it being black and white still made sense. Or I should say early enough that being black and white still made sense, but late enough that there could be more like camera tricks and like, you know, maybe little ways of like making things look better than they actually were. But yeah, no, if this came out in 54, like they had to just do very analog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With everything. And I think something that's interesting about this movie is like it made me think that I'm shocked we knew anything about the ocean prior to like the year 1980.
Right. Yes.
Because like you were saying while we were watching it, you know, plastic wasn't prevalent then.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have lightweight plastic underwater cameras. You didn't.
Plastic as something that exists is a lot younger than I think anybody understands.
Right. Yeah. So everything they had was like cloth.
Yep.
Rubber, metal. And it's like, that's a lot of shit to be like diving under the water with.
Right.
And carrying around with you.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, even then, as far as the technology of monster makeup goes, you know, let me just for comparison's sake, let me look something up here.
Sure.
Yeah, This Island Earth was 1955, so this is the year after this, and the monster from This Island Earth looks like, it looks like a guy in a big bulky suit just waddling around with like pincers that kind of work.
Yeah.
And that movie has a lot more special effects in it, and I think this one benefits from really only having one, and so they can put all their focus on the Gillman. Right. And like, there's not a lot of different locations. It's just kind of I think they shot the underwater stuff in Florida, and the above water stuff in California. I think
or
that's
vice versa.
Possibly vice versa. I forget. But yeah, it was just they're just on the boat. They're just in that majority of is just in that lagoon area. Yeah. And so you don't have to build a ton of sets and stuff, and so you really can put all the effort into making the monster look as good as possible.
Yeah, and I do think that like in this era, they really benefited from the black and white.
That's the monster I was
talking
about.
Oh, that's I have seen that. Yeah. I've seen that everywhere. But I think the black and white really works for this movie.
It does, yeah.
You know, like I think I wouldn't even want to see a colorized version of this.
Yes.
Because I think it would start to look kind of cartoony and kind of fake no matter how you did it. And I was shocked to see how well the 3D went with the black and white film. Like that actually, I think, added like a texture and a depth to things that I don't know, it's just like it made it really crisp and really clear, and I really liked it. Yeah.
It's too bad that 3D isn't used more as a tool, because even now, well, I mean, they don't really do it anymore. But when it came back, there was like a handful of movies that took it seriously, and then the rest of it was just like post-production slapped on.
Yeah, I think it's like it's just so tough to not go gimmicky with it. Yeah. And like we said earlier, this movie has a couple moments where it's definitely like they're taking full advantage of the 3D, but it wasn't a movie that was designed to be in 3D. So
I believe this one was.
Oh, this one was.
This
okay.
one was. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, I think they use it in a subtle way.
Yeah, like they do the pointing in the they never have a thing where it's like, look at this poker, and then they just
hey
kind of
there,
like
you.
Yeah, they're not like yo-yoing into the camera like they were in Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah, it holds up really well, I think. Overall, it's like it's not even really, I mean, I guess you could call it kind of campy, but even so, it's not like, I don't even find it that silly. It's just like, it's a solid monster movie.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't call it campy. And I think the thing this movie is it knows what it is.
Yes.
Like, it's not campy, but it also doesn't try to be like overtly philosophical. It introduces some themes and some ideas that you can, should you want to, extrapolate out onto it, like about environmentalism, about colonialism, about race. Like you could go into all of those things with this movie, but the movie doesn't force you to.
Right.
So if you want to just watch a, group of humans is confronted by something both terrifying and awe-inspiring and dangerous, like, yep, that's what this movie is.
Yeah.
It doesn't force you to, if you don't want to think about like white colonialism, like you don't have to really in this movie. You can if you want to, but the movie doesn't make you.
No. I was going to make a CRT joke, but
Shh.
They allow this movie in schools in the South.
Oh God, maybe. Who knows anymore?
Yeah, I know, maybe not. Yeah, it's like I was talking about how Mark and David are kind of polar opposites of each other to like kind of a silly degree.
Yeah.
But it does, even there, it's like not even that over the top. Like, Mark goes after this thing like it killed his dog. Like, he has no reason.
He's the John Wick of this movie.
Yeah, Mark is a money guy.
Yeah.
Mark wants to bring this thing back from money.
But then, you could start doing a sort of anti-capitalist reading of this movie.
Okay.
Where he's all about, like, I'm going to capture this thing, and I'm going to capture it dead or alive, but I'm going to make a fuck ton of money off of it, and that's the greatest good that it can serve.
Yeah, okay.
The greatest good that this creature can serve is making me or someone or all of us a ton of money.
Yeah.
And then the sort of environmentalist perspective is David, who is saying, no, there is value of just knowing where this thing is and knowing that it's out there and knowing what its habitat is like and studying its evolution.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's I think a debate that this movie sort of, it's interesting because I think on the surface it seems to come down on David's side.
Yeah.
But the more you look at it, like you were saying, he keeps kind of just being like, yeah, I mean, let it go.
Yeah.
It killed so-and-so, and it killed this other guy, and now it's killed these two guys, and now it's killed Mark. But we should let it go.
Right.
And so, like, both sides end up not coming out looking super great.
It's weak on crime, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying we need to stop and frisk the Gillman. Yeah.
That's why he never went to New York in the early 2000s.
That's why he stayed in, where are they supposed to be, Brazil?
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. So in the Amazon.
I don't know. They're very vague about that. They're very much like, yes, here on the river. It's like,
I really
the Amazon
enjoyed.
is a very long river. You know that, right?
What does he say? It makes the Mississippi look like a stream or something like that.
Yeah.
I really did like that scene though when Lucas was basically like, yes, everything here is huge. The bugs are huge. the fish are huge. It's all scary. Don't leave the boat.
It's really funny because my husband has been to the jungle in Venezuela. And he has been many places, and that is the one where he has said he has no desire to return to the jungle.
No,
any
not
jungle.
Interested.
Yeah,
not interested. After Arachnophobia, and there's probably another movie on the list, not this list, but like on my personal list.
Yes,
that
the list that haunts you at night.
The list that haunts me.
Yeah.
Man, That opening sequence of Arachnophobia when they're in the jungle.
I have never seen that movie, and I don't want to.
Oh my god, it's
not doing
it's
it.
a great movie.
Nope.
You sure?
I'm positive.
I can use it as a wild card if you want.
I don't want you to.
Okay.
I can't stop you because this is an equal partnership, but I would prefer that you didn't.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's a great movie, but the beginning, as a child,
Nope.
they're in the jungle, and there's spiders like in the trees and shit.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's bleh. Anyway.
Well, no. So Greg was telling me, he was a kid when he was in the jungle, and
That's where they found him, right?
Yeah. He was living in a hole
Yes.
under some trees.
He was easy to spot. He was the whitest thing.
The whitest thing anyone ever seen. But no, he was saying, he was probably like 8 years old, and 8-year-olds, their feet aren't huge, but they aren't tiny. And he was talking about just bugs bigger than his shoes, just around. Those weren't the bad ones. Those were just the ones that you found around your hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
Yeah.
I think it was Arachnophobia, and then a story that I think my church youth pastor told about when he was doing like a missions trip in the jungle.
Spiders.
And they had mosquito nets on their beds, and he woke up and there was like 5 huge spiders just on the mosquito net over the bed. I was like, that's fine. I don't need to go. Thank you for going, but
Yes, thank you for going so that I now know I won't.
yes,
Yeah.
not interested.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, even if there's a Gillman there.
Yes.
I don't need to know.
You know, it's interesting. First of all, before we kind of wrap it up, I love the scene where they set him on fire.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Oh my god.
That was such a good-
that was so good. I was
Yeah.
kind of shocked at how good that looked.
It was pretty quick, but it was like
Yeah.
they
Packed a punch.
because they've got him in close up, and I don't know if it was a dummy or something, or if like just the
Yeah.
cutting was really well done.
Yeah.
But they just slam him with one of those lanterns.
Yeah, and then he is
just
fully engulfed.
really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I was going to say was I was kind of surprised because this would have given me, chills at some point. I was kind of surprised at no point they're like, well, did you ever consider he's not the only one?
Right.
Like it's never even brought up.
Right.
That maybe there's, because he's such a, he's compared to this other, what was it called? The lungfish?
Yes.
That's been the same for 35 million years or something like that.
Yes.
And he's portrayed as this evolutionary oddity.
Yes. That has survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they never put out the idea that, well, maybe there are more of them.
Yeah.
And it's just not the same one that's been around for 35 million years.
It would have been kind of great if after the like at the end when we see the Gillman dying and kind of sinking down into the depths of the lagoon, if like there had been a quick moment of the ship finally clearing out and like getting away, and as the ship moved, just like bubbles coming up from the lagoon, some implication that like the Gillman or some other gill creature was still there.
Well, they did make 2 sequels.
Right, of course.
And they get
Does a movie ever really even exist if it doesn't get a sequel?
not anymore. No. You know what's interesting? Of all of these movies, these Universal monster movies,
Yeah.
Wolfman is the only one that doesn't have a direct sequel. Well,
Huh.
that's technically not fair for me to say.
Yeah, in the TV show Dinosaurs.
What?
You know the TV show Dinosaurs?
Sure.
Not the mama, all
Yes,
that.
yeah.
There's a whole werewolf episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, except he becomes a human. It's like the teenage brother. He becomes a wereman.
Ah.
Yeah.
No,
That was a joke and nobody got it. I apologize.
That's fine. That's fine.
Goodbye.
No, but Wolfman, there's no like Wolfman 2 or
Right.
Son of Wolfman.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, but he does show up in other movies. So there's no Wolfman 2, but
Yeah.
Frankenstein versus Wolfman
Oh, yeah.
picks up the Wolfman story
Yeah.
directly from the first movie.
Huh.
And then he shows up in House of Dracula and House of Frankenstein.
Okay.
And
So he's just kicking around.
he's just bumming around. He
Yeah.
gets killed in every one of these movies, but he's
Aw.
somehow still alive.
Poor
and at the end of
Wolfman.
every one of them.
But the creature gets a sequel.
Creature gets 2, and they get kind of weird, if I remember correctly. I think
You don't say.
The second one,
I'm shocked that the movie about the horny fish man gets weird.
yeah, the first one is Revenge of the Creature, which was also filmed and released in 3D in hopes of reviving the format. So I guess originally 3D, I guess, much like, well, I guess it stuck around longer recently, but I think it was in and out pretty quick in the 50s. And then there was these came out 54, 55, and 56. Revenge of the Creature was in 55, and The Creature Walks Among Us was in 56.
The creature takes Manhattan.
Yeah, basically. And the creature design is very strange, because he's like in this one he's like a lot more smooth, and I don't know if he's supposed to be like a hybrid or something.
He's a lot more smooth.
I'm sorry.
He's like really good at picking up ladies.
He gets badly burned. That's what it is. And so like so he's got a much weirder look on the third one. But I haven't seen those yet. They are in the packet, the set that I have, but I haven't watched them.
Sorry.
We could have watched.
Laughing at he's a lot more smooth.
Apparently, originally the design that they tried to kick around, he was supposed to look like an Oscar statue. But you can probably assume why that didn't fly.
Yeah. Nope. Don't need that.
Yeah. But what's funny is, like, honestly, we could have probably watched all 3 of these movies in the time it took us to watch Salem's Lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Salem's Lot was long.
It was very long.
Very
Yes.
long.
But yeah, this Creature from Black Lagoon has, I think, a big legacy to it. Like there was a lot of like I said, it starts off very similarly to Jurassic Park.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of Jaws in this movie.
Ton of Jaws in this movie.
Yeah, and
Crazy boat captain.
Yep.
Winches that are almost breaking or breaking.
Even the creature swimming underneath the girl is kind of reminiscent of Chrissy going swimming.
Yes.
At the beginning there. And lost my train of thought about that.
Other films.
Oh, yes. And the sea monster creature is just sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? Keeps going. My brain just broke. It's a sustained character. Like it's Monster Squad.
Yep.
Features another fantastic Gillman, probably the best Gillman since this one.
It's pretty great.
Like I mentioned, Humanoids of the Deep, obviously.
Yeah, he's like an iconic character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Humanoids of the Deep. The monsters are actually designed by Rob Bottin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty weird looking.
I can only imagine.
And they get great lady grabbing hands.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Got to be able to grab those ladies.
Yeah. And I believe Monster Squad, I think, is designed by Stan Winston. I think. And that's a great costume. But yeah, he's kind of he's a character who you don't see.
Would you say he's just lurking under the surface, Clay?
I would say so. Yes. But you don't see him a lot. Like he's got his 3 movies.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of.
But it is very much like a pop culture
Yeah,
icon
he's a
kind
big
of
pop
thing.
culture icon.
Yeah, where it's just like that style of creature comes up in other forms of media, other genres. Like
he's
even,
become an adjective, basically.
Yeah.
Like the creature from the Black Lagoon is something you would say to, a very wet, hairy man coming out of the water or something.
You sound like you're speaking from experience.
Not directly. But yeah, it's I'm kind of surprised that they haven't gone back to him more, because I was doing that math where I was like, okay, creatures in 54, and I was like, the update, sort of Humanoids from the Deep is kind of like a rip-off update.
But then you also have stuff that's like outside of like the horror movie like realm, where you even have like Abe Sapien. and stuff in
definitely.
Hellboy,
Yes,
who's
yeah.
very much this kind of look in a way, and like
100%.
The Shape of Water,
Mm-hmm.
to stick with the Guillermo del Toro of it
Mhm.
all. Yeah, there's just, it's still there, that kind of character, creature, whatever you want to call it. Like it's still present. I think it captures people's imagination a little less
Yeah.
because it is so inherently foreign.
Mm,
Like it was never human, and it's still not.
sure.
Whereas like Dracula was once human. Frankenstein is made of pieces of humans.
Many human.
The one
That's the whole species distinction for
Yes.
Frankenstein monsters is they are many human.
many human. And the Wolfman is
Mhm.
still partially human when he's not turning into a werewolf. You
Right.
know, the Mummy was once alive and was just a guy. Like all of those things, like you can envision what that monster was before it became a monster. Whereas the creature from the Black Lagoon is just it just is what it is. It's been this way for 400 million years.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised they've never remade it.
Yeah, I think you'd have to find something new to say with it.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what that would be without getting maybe like too political.
Yeah, I think there's room to do a legitimately scary version of this.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that the thing that they've been doing instead is going the easier route of, if you want something scary in the water, you stick with sharks.
sure.
Maybe you go to crocodiles.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just easier. It's easier to make it a monster of like a beast that should be slain, rather than kind of maintaining the ambiguity that the creature has.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'd think with the climate change stuff and environmentalism stuff being so popular
Yeah.
and prevalent over the past
I
however
think
many
if you
decades.
cross that with the sort of folk horror revival that's happened in the last 5 years, you could get a real cool, intense movie.
Yeah.
So everybody be on the lookout for Ari Aster's next film in 2025.
That would be awesome. Actually, Eggers would do a pretty good
Eggers
creature
would do a
movie. That would be
really good job.
An
He's
impenetrable
come-
movie for
he's-
most people.
Yes, yes. It would be fascinating and absolutely incoherent to me.
You would go to see a normal person would go to see
Yeah.
Robert Eggers' remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon
Yeah.
and come out saying, that had a lot more human on cloaca sex than I thought there would be.
I was just thinking, like probably the Mermaid from the Lighthouse is the closest thing we've
Yeah.
gotten to a creature remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you're saying, Shape of Water is the romantic remake, I guess.
Yeah, it's the rom-com version of that.
Have you seen that?
I have not.
I
Actually,
haven't seen it either.
I feel like it got, and I feel kind of bad because I feel like it got sort of a bad rap for being like, ooh, she has sex with a fish man, and so
Sign me up. Someone's finally making the movies I want to see.
So the horny monsters we've been talking about all the last 2 episodes. It's your genre, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, where are we at?
This is number 100. Oh, the music. We didn't talk about the music that too much. Very effective, iconic, like sting.
Yes. Whenever the creature pops up.
Yeah, reminiscent of the Wolfman, which has a very similar kind of 3-note thing. The Wolfman's like bam, 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 and this one's kind of like a bit of an inversion of that a bit. But it works.
Yeah.
Really well.
Lots of like dreamy sort of.
Yeah, and you're
music,
saying
yeah.
the music with Kay is very kind of dreamy, and
Yeah.
it's a nice juxtaposition, and I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, agree.
This is number 154, I think I said, on
Sounds
our
right.
list. What do you think about that placement? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? Should it be taken off the list?
I honestly might say it should be a little bit closer to 100 to me, just because I think it has been really influential on, we mentioned the 2 big obvious ones that jumped out to us, Jurassic Park and Jaws, but I'm 100% positive there are many other movies that this has had a huge impact on.
Oh, I'm sure if you went back and
Yeah.
watched like Anaconda
Oh, yeah.
or
Oh, God.
anything like that,
Yes.
or even something like Congo or something.
Yeah.
Probably well, maybe not. Maybe a little bit of Congo, but
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's had such a huge legacy, and I think, like you said, where this type of character is just sort of this iconic creature that has carried forward into pop culture. And if you tell somebody like, oh, it looks like the creature in the Black Lagoon, everybody knows exactly what you mean right away.
Right.
And so I feel like this has just had such a big and lasting impact in so many ways that it should be further up on our list.
I would
know?
agree. I think it gets a legacy bump.
Yeah, right? Like it's just so inescapable. Like if everybody knows it, even if you haven't seen the movie, like you're familiar with the concept.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure at this point there are more people who recognize Gillman from merchandise than from a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, but they still recognize it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think this should be probably closer to like, the 120s, the 110s, maybe even in the 90s. I'm not going to say it's like the highest quality horror movie.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I do think, like, legacy wise, it should be further on up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. So this is episode 59.
Dun,
so
dun,
our
dun.
next episode is episode 60. It's a wild card pick.
Yes.
It's Amanda's wild card pick. Do you have a movie for us for next time?
I do, and I'm going to pick one that I myself have not seen, but I have
okay.
been wanting to see very badly. I would like to do In the Earth.
In the Earth? I don't know that one.
In the Earth. Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick...
Look it up. It came out in 2001. It's sort of...
2001 or 2021?
I'm sorry, 2021.
Okay.
I am old. I think it's still the aughts right now.
It's a Ben Wheatley movie. Okay.
Yes, it is a Ben Wheatley movie.
I see. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice and weird. Okay.
Yep. I just want some weird, like, eco horror, folk horror, maybe slightly post-apocalyptic.
Is this in that box set of the folk horror movies that you got?
No, it is not. That box set is all older movies.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's maybe a couple from the 80s and I don't know if there are any from the 90s. But the vast majority of those are older. This one I've had my eye on probably since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems very up my alley. It's like people kind of trapped / lost in a wilderness setting, not certain what's real and what's not around them.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm into that. Yeah, Ben Wheatley's interesting because he's a guy who every time he has a movie come out, I go, yeah, that looks pretty cool. I'd like to see that, and then I never end up seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the things I have seen from him, so I have high hopes, but like I said, I haven't seen this one yet, so we're all going on an adventure together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that'll do it for Creature from the Black Lagoon. Thank you guys for listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can join our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/thepensky-file. Pensky File is kind of our umbrella corporation. Fewer zombies, though. Actually, probably. I mean, this
Probably
show,
an equivalent amount of zombies.
Yeah. And we also do a Patreon show where this year Amanda and I are covering the second string of Stephen King adaptations. In May, we will be doing Cujo. In April, we did... no, wait, I'm sorry. May, we are doing The Dark Half?
That sounds right.
Yes, we're doing The Dark Half.
Yeah.
I said on the Star Trek show the other day we were doing Cujo. I don't know why I said
Just retconning our lives.
that. We're doing The Dark Half in May. We did Needful Things in April.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are the kind of things we're covering on there. We also have 12 episodes from last year where Amanda and I covered the entirety of the Friday the 13th series. So if you'd like to listen to us
And listen to me go slowly insane over the course of 12 months.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you fall in love. So thank you guys.
Me plus Jason forever.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Amanda, for joining me.
Thank you, Clay.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.